Mr. President, I rise in support of Senate Resolution 234. And as a former competitive swimmer, I have long believed that we need to stay in our lane and focus on state policy and state issues. But absent federal action that is now impacting states, we cannot sit by on the sidelines and wait for the federal government to act. We have waited too long for Washington, D.C. to act, and they have failed. My constituents have reached out so many times on this very issue, and they have shared with me stories on how illegal immigration impacts them right here, Southern York County, despite being more than 1,600 miles away from our nation's southern border. After watching videos of hotels and cities across the Northeast taking on illegal immigrants who arrive from border states, I received this message from a constituent in Dallastown. And he rightfully noted that our country can't take care of our veterans who need help when they come home from their duty overseas, or the homeless people in our country. But our nation rolls out the red carpet for those who entered into our country illegally. Another constituent from New Freedom emailed me and voiced her frustration with how the President's administration is using taxpayers' money to house, to feed, to provide free medical care to those individuals who are illegally crossing our southern border, while we have homeless citizens, including veterans, who are denied housing and benefits. What is our priority? A nation that puts up red tape in front of people who are here legally. A nation that is prioritizing people who broke the law and entered our nation illegally, while disregarding people who put on the uniform to defend our nation. You want to fly on a commercial flight? You need an identification. Pretty soon it'll be a real ID, thanks to the federal government. You are vetted to make sure you are on a do not fly list. There are checks in place for safety and security reasons. However, if you are here illegally, you will be taken at your word using a Customs and Border Protection app without a thorough vetting, and you will be placed on a flight. This border crisis impacts us all. As Texas and other states, they run out of capacity to handle this influx, these individuals who are here illegally will head elsewhere. And as I cautioned yesterday, our state cannot print money when it's needed, like they can in Washington, D.C. Those politicians, they just print money in Washington, D.C. to pay for their spending. Without a vetting process of who is crossing our border, it's very concerning for the safety and security of Pennsylvania and our nation. And absent federal action on this effort, we need to do what we can to protect our Commonwealth and stand with Governor Abbott in Texas in their resolve to address this crisis. Putting up barriers to prohibit illegal crossings is common sense. We saw barriers amassed out on the Capitol steps just yesterday as we sat in the rotunda for the budget address for the safety and security of our governor and all of us, as well as our colleagues in the House. What about similar protections for everyday Americans by encouraging people to go through the proper vetting and immigrations process? The problem grows worse as Washington, D.C. idles. Blame can go around to both parties at the federal level for not taking the time and tackling this issue before it became a crisis. December of 2023 was the busiest month on record for illegal border crossings. So while Washington, D.C. fails, we can act here in Harrisburg to stand with another state that is acting. Because while it's Texas's problem today, it will be our problem soon enough. I respectfully ask my colleagues to cast an affirmative vote for Senate Resolution 234. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes